Philosophy leads prosperity, and prosperity leads procession. When procession became idea, then idea brings some demand. That's demand. Outcome is what is right, fundamental right. So you're hearing on E on Air. This is Ekansh. Let's begin with the question answer session of today. Hope you're doing well, safe and sound. Let's begin and discuss very short question answers. We already discussed now short question answers and question answers in brief. Question number 1. Idea of liberty and democratic rights were the most important legacy of French Revolution. Explain statement in the light of French Revolution. So here the question means outcome of French Revolution. What type of benefit we get, what type of ROI, return on investment, return of a life, struggle and other thing to that particular revolution provide us fundamental right, basic right to the individual of equality, liberty, fraternity gained by the third estate as per demand, as per the equal rights to all, equal taxes paid to the government by all type of category. Each of the state people can access education freely express their opinions. So the answer is people of third estate demanded a society based on freedom and opportunities to all. The National Assembly was formed in 1791 with an objective to limit the power of the monarch. The constitution framed in 1791 began with the Declaration of Rights of Men and Citizens, and slavery was abolished in 1789. These are some common examples of question number 1. Move to another question. Explain the impact of French Revolution on the life of people of France. So उनके ऊपर क्या impact हुआ था फ्रेंच रेवोल्यूशन का, किस पे, फ्रांस के लोगों पे. Rights to the common citizen provide them strength, standard of living raises. They also get voting rights. They also get women's get rights regarding access of education. Divorce was made legal and could be applied by both men and women. Women would be now trained for a job, can become artists or run a small business like shops. And the Constitution of 1791 began with a declaration of right of men and citizen. It proclaimed that freedom of speech and opinion and equality before law were natural rights. So each human being by birth could not be taken away. किसी का भी लिया नहीं जा सकता कोई भी right जो उनको birth से मिला हुआ है regarding education, access of education, access to have expressed their opinion, their doubts and raise their voice against any illegal practices. Newspapers, pamphlets and printed communications were steadily in the town of French. From there, they traveled into the countryside, and the publication describe and discuss the event and changes taken place in the country. Let's guys hurry up with the question number 3. What compelled Louis XVI to raise the taxes in the France? So the answer is here due to instability in economics, due to so many wars happen, and kings are extravagant usage of national GDP or money of common people. First point is war and economic crisis. So in 1774, when Louis XVI ascended the throne, he found an empty treasure. The nation had gone into deep debt because of fighting in the 7-year war, that is 1756 to 1763, and the Revolutionary War in America under Louis XVI. In this war, France helped the 13 American colonies to gain their independence from Britain. The war added more than $1 billion to a debt that has already risen to more than $2 billion. Leverage is what? Leverage is a currency, right, of France. Now the next point, debt trap lenders who gave the state credit now began to charge 10% interest on loan. So the French government was obliged to spend an increasing percentage of its budget on interest payment alone. This could meet regular expenses such as the cost of maintaining army, running government offices or universities, and even forced to increase the tax because of such conditions. And even extravagant court, France under various kings has an extravagant court at the immense palace of Versailles. Now move to another question. Describe the status of the noble in France before the revolution. The status of noble as well as clergy live a luxury life and enjoy numerous privileges as per the birth. On the other hand, the peasants and workers lived a rich life. They groaned under heavy taxes and forced labor. The middle class, comprising of lawyers, doctors, teachers, merchants, etc., also suffered humiliations at the hand of the clergy and the nobles. This state of social inequality was the chief cause of French Revolution. Move to another question. The inequality that exists in the French society is the old rhyme became the cause of French Revolution. Justify the statement by the given example. Division of states into three: noble, clergy, and the common people. This create a social inequality. The third estate only to pay the taxes, in which middle class is reaching. So the third estate comprises of business, traders, merchants, artisan, workers, peasants, servants, all these. So the member of church and nobility enjoy certain privileges by birth, the most important being the exemptions from paying taxes to the state. Feudal dues were extracted by noble from peasants, and 1/10 of the agricultural produce of peasants in the form of these came to the share of clergy. All members of the third state, including peasants, paid taxes. Thus, the burden of financing activities of the state through taxes was borne by the third estate alone, creating heavy discontentment. कहने का मतलब यही है बिकॉज ऑफ हीट, जैसे मैंने पहले बताया था, एक डायरेक्ट टैक्स था, एक इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स था. जो चर्च लेता था वो इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स था, जो स्टेट लेता था वो डायरेक्ट टैक्स होता था. बोथ वर गिवन टू द फ्रेंच गवर्नमेंट ऑफ लुइस 16. जो चर्च लेता था उसको थीट बोलते थे, जो स्टेट लेता था उसको थील बोलते थे. राइट. Move to another question. How did philosophers influence the thinking of the people of France? How the philosophers influence people of France? So, philosophers influence the thinking of people of France in different ways, through books, through write-ups, through articles, through discussion. So the print media involve a pivotal role in influencing the people of France and changing the mindset, changing the ideas like freedom, one vote, one right, and social contract is one of the major book who played a role in that way. Some major points of this answer is like majors were introduced in the Russian economy and agriculture after the revolution. Private property were abolished and the land became a state property. Peasants have the freedom to cultivate on their own land. So the system of centralized planning was introduced with the help of 5-year plan. It helped in bringing about technological improvement, economic growth, and help in removing the inequality in the society. So the revolution acknowledged rights to work and identified dignity of labor. Sociality economy added a new dimensions to democracy by attributing it as a socio-economic systems. So these are some of the points which include in this answer. Number 7, what was the role of philosopher and thinker in the French Revolution? Explained by example. Please correct this Hindi science, it's written wrong. The philosopher and thinker believed that No group in a society should be privileged by birth. They support a society based on freedom and equal laws. इक्वल लॉस के दम पे बर्थ से ही उसके प्रिविलेजेस डिसाइड नहीं होते, दैट कुड बी डिसाइड ऑन द स्किल्स. सो द फ्रीडम एंड इक्वालिटी इज मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट. In the two treaties of government, John Locke, one of the philosophers, sought to refuse the doctrine of divine and absolute right of the monarch. उन्होंने इसको भी रिफ्यूज़ कर दिया, ना नहीं मिलेगा. Now, Rosales, another philosopher, carried the idea forward, promoting a form of government based on social contract between people and their representative. In the spirit of laws, Montesquieu, another philosopher who writes Spirit of Laws, proposed a division of power within the government between the legislative and the executive and the judiciary. As I already told you, legislative means government, executive, admin power, and judiciary is a court and lawyer. Next question: what measures were taken by the Robespierre to bring equality in the French Revolution? Robespierre bring equality measures. What are they? Who was Robespierre? Jobins Club lead by Robespierre, Maximilien Robespierre. Yeah, वही वाले. Now, Robespierre government issued a law placing a maximum ceiling on wages and prices. Equality was also sought to be practiced through form of speech and address, like now, no sir and madam, only citizens were called. Churches were shut down, so they become barrack or offices. Equality was sought to be practiced through the form of speech, address. They also with the clothes, they also with the name, they also with eating, like a white flour or a very expensive flour were banned. Only the wheat flour were allowed to eat. So peasants were forced to transport their grain to the cities and sell its practice. Prices fixed by the government. The use of more expensive white flour was forbidden, as I told you. All citizens were required to eat the equality bread, a loaf made of whole wheat. Question number 9. How did the peasants contribute to the outbreak of French Revolution? Explain. It's a hot question. So, contribution of peasants to the outbreak of French Revolution is happened through they had to pay various taxes to the government, to the nobles, and to the churches. As I told you, Louis XVI increased the taxes due to scarcity, due to economic inflations, and even the rumors were spread regarding the hail, regarding the storm which destroy the crops. This could increase the prices in the market, so the merchants also availing benefit from the same. So this all create nuisance regarding Louis King and their admin, which become the result of the outbreak of French Revolution. Question number 10. State event that led to the formation of National Assembly. As I already told you that the States General were a political body of France to which the three states sent their representative. The voting it had been conducted according to the principle that each state had one vote. So the 300 members of each two state, that is of noble and clergy, were sit on opposite side, and the third state 600 members were standing on back side, and those who are literate are allowed. Women were not allowed to enter, and peasants and workers were not allowed to enter to that assembly. Assembly were demanded for their voting rights, but they were not allowed the individual rights of vote, so they back out from that assembly. So the time to when Louis XVI called a meeting of each state journal, he decided to continue the same old practice, but the member of the third state demanded the voting now could be conducted on the democratic principle of one person, one vote. When the king rejected this proposal, the third state walked out and the assembly is protest. They assembled on 20th June 1789 in the hall of an indoor tennis court in the Versailles. These representatives of the third state viewed themselves as spokesperson for whole French nation. They declared themselves as a national assembly and drafted a constitution. Let's move to another question. Trace the event which led to the fall of Bastille. So this one is the fall of Bastille. So I just raising some points. On 20th June, the representative of the third state assembled in the hall, while the National Assembly was busy at Versailles drafting a constitution. On that same point, after spending hours in a long queue at the bakery, crowd of angry women stormed into the shop. At the same time, the king ordered troops to move into the Paris. On 14 July, the agitated crowd stormed and destroyed the Bastille. Another question. Write the main features of French Constitution of 1791. The power of National Assembly. The Constitution of 1791 vested the power to make laws in the National Assembly, which was indirectly elected. This is citizen voted for a group of electors who is turn choose the assembly. So now king agree with the proposal of National Assembly right to vote. Not all citizens, however, they have a right to vote. Only men above 25 of age who paid taxes equal at least 3 days of a labor's wages were given the status of active citizen, and the other were passive citizens, in which men's and all women's were classified. So the basic right of all citizens were given some basic rights such as a right to life, freedom of speech, freedom of opinion, equality before law. It was the duty of the state to protect each citizen's natural rights. So it's still there is violations, illegal practices happen. This is all about today's session. If you have some more questions, please ask on the comment box and don't forget to subscribe.